Hello, and welcome back to another casted game on the Age of Bison YouTube channel. I'm your host once more, SerSharkDad here, and I'm joined by my good friend Platypus Slayer. Today we have a good one with MoZeS going up with India. And on the other side of the map, we have TheCandyMan, who is an interesting guy once you get to know him in a Discord setting, I guess, playing Russia, which is another interesting civ. And we are on the beautiful map of Hokkaido once more, which I think, no, actually the game before this last one that I casted was a Hokkaido matchup of McCleaves versus Vindian. And we saw that this map is very interesting in terms of how it forces players to really think about map control and really contend with this large mountain piece here in the center. What do you think about this matchup, Platt?
Yeah, well, first off, again, Candyman, the Lord of the memes of the Discord, always has a good response to stuff, and a very versatile player. Again, and MoZeS has shown himself in this tournament a bit of a dark horse, going pretty far, showing a lot of variability in strategies. So on a map like this, that basically boils down to who takes the choke points and who's able to force map control first. This might just be like a scramble, basically, between these two players, right? Where there's a lot of nifty stuff you can do on this map, but 90% of the games come down to who takes the center and who's able to, either hold the center to punch through or hold against the center and flank around. So looking for probably a pretty intense game here.
Yeah, and I think also just to add is that, and I know maybe this is a controversial statement to say variable strength and power creep of each civ, right? You would look at India and you would say India is a far better performing civ statistically across, I would say, the competitive scene versus a civ like Russia. So I feel like the Candyman does have his work cut out for him, but there's also the factor of what are you comfortable with, what do you know, and that's going to be very, very important in this match.
Well, and, again, stats, let's say it's a 60-40 matchup, right? Well, somebody won that 40% of the time.
Right, exactly. And that could be Candyman in this scenario. But
Exactly.
we do have, like you said, like it is going to be a scramble. So blockhouses, I'm imagining, are going to be very forward. But then India has its aggro, so we're going to see what kind of age up he has here. I saw distributivism coming in as a first card. Let's go ahead and take a look at this deck here. I think this is pretty no nonsense, except native learning is going to be kind of interesting if he wants to go ahead and take some of these trade posts here, some of the native sites. I know that there are only 2, and I believe they give you Zen Temple. Okay, so I don't know if the Shohei Naginata are worth it, but be interesting.
Oh, and it looks like MoZeS, he is aging up with a standard 1420. And it looks like he's putting the aggro a little bit defensive, right? So it looks like he's probably going to try to boom a bit, maybe try to get the trade posts up north and, some kind of text. And it looks like we've got 3 villagers coming from the Candyman, looking to probably put a blockhouse there as well.
Quartermaster for him. And let's go ahead and take a look over at the deck. Oh, wait, he definitely sees that now. Sees that. And this is kind of like on the cusp of being defensive versus offensive. I mean, I feel like this gives him a lot of options. It is more on his side, right? But can definitely be pushed forward. Looking over at Russia once more, he does have some water play available, whereas MoZeS
does as well. Good decks by both players. I would say, no anti-water from MoZeS.
No anti-water, yeah.
Look at that right off the bat.
Aggressive
I think
here.
this blockhouse is going to go up first. So, what Candyman's saying? He's basically saying, you know what? I am just going to nail this ASAP. I want to push right off the bat. I want to be right on top of these sepoys. Think about the aggro is, while very powerful, it can't do damage to the blockhouse. He still has to build units. And India doesn't necessarily have the highest siege either, right? Russia definitely does not have high siege in Age 2, but India, the sepoys for their cost aren't exactly the highest siege unit. And Rajputs are kind of, they don't really mesh well with the standard Age 2 play typically. So just like that, Candyman is up first.
Yeah, Candyman does have some interesting. You have the grenade launchers. I think that's kind of interesting. Refrigeration is going to be nice. Halberdiers in the deck to add a little bit extra siege. A lot of Strelic combat stuff. So some pretty interesting. I think a well-rounded deck gives plenty of option. And as for MoZeS, once again, also just a pretty universal deck here. Looks like he's sending in 5 Sepoy and a Villager. Very interesting to go for the Sepoy here, considering that that Russia's going to tend for the Strelet Mass, so why not set down that stable or even go for the Gurkha early, because now
So
he's going to
even
be sending in the 13 stroke.
right, so even the famous Flail or Fail elephants actually might not have been a bad call there. So but again, caster privilege and hindsight's always 2020, and so far MoZeS has shown himself extremely dangerous with India. So curious to see what happens now.
I'm curious as well, that shipment now coming in and 4 Sepoy being trained out, but I feel like Sepoy 25, 12 versus 8, 14. So they're going to have that range advantage. Very little damage, but they do have the range resistance versus...
Big old Straylet pop.
Yeah, big Straylet pop here. And fighting under the aggro, so he is going to have the light infantry advantage. But Sepoy are pretty formidable musketeers, and then you have the aggro firing. So I don't know exactly how much he's going to get out of it, but probably more cost effective. So if he can wear down the economy, that would be good. But I know he's not going to necessarily take the aggro with these Strelets. And now Cossack coming in on his part with some upgrades.
Looks like some Gurkha coming in, and yep, the Straylets, they're going to try to either book out, maybe poke around, see if they can luck out and snag a Vill here and there. But the Straylets are not exactly the beefiest unit. That village, you're taking 2 volleys without going down.
All right, so what are you thinking? I mean, I guess Candyman's doing everything he needs to be doing here. He's going to try to idle the eco.
Actually, yep, idle the eco,
switch.
maybe snag a Vill. Cossacks are out. Again, Cossacks will beat Sower pretty effectively. Sour are very squishy, very fast, but a very squishy hand cav. But nonetheless, again, those Cossacks, they kind of have to run. So
yep, absolutely, and he's going to see, but he's probably running towards the Vills. I think one going down because MoZeS, I don't know what he was doing to just kind of let them idle here. Maybe because he really wanted the food eco, because now he has none on food, and is having to re-macro 20 versus 20. So that's pretty good on MoZes' part to stay on top of the Vill count. But Russia will eventually overtake just because of the batches system that they have. Gonna go ahead and try to siege down this blockhouse. Some musketeers now coming here on Candyman's part, and it looks like MoZeS is getting a little distracted here. Cossacks are getting free swings in on those Sepoy. Or not Sepoy, sorry.
I think he wanted to get that blockhouse down. Again, it being a shipment point, it's so terrifying when you push underneath blockhouse, or an aggro for that matter, right? Because you never know what's popping up. So he might have figured, I'm going to take my beating, but I should limit his ability to retaliate if I take the blockhouse down. And that's exactly what happens now. I believe Candyman does not have a military building, so he's going to have to figure out a way to either buy time.
Building another one here now.
Yep. Until that second one goes up.
So you're calling that worth it for sure?
I would say worth it in the fact that he's kept India down, but I think in MoZes' case, he's doing the safe play, which is rip down the blockhouse, buy myself some time.
Going on berries now, MoZes is keeping it playing close to the vest because he knows those Cossack are out and they're kind of poking and prodding around, but he probably needs to try to go ahead and secure this hunt up here as well as this hunt, but these Cossack are well into the back of the base. Did they not spot that single villager on the coin mine? Very funny. Aggro's still up, and so he's really going to twist the knife on that aggro. I mean, that's a perfect placement. Very little health has been lost. Cossack now coming in for a good raid. It looks like they're going to get their swings in, one being body blocked. We're probably going to see a... No, actually, no. Okay, awesome. Great part on MoZes to pull those Vills back. But still more Sepoy. What are you thinking about this? Sepoy play, no Gurkha. I guess because you have the Cossack.
Right. Well, he's got a few Gurkha out. I think at this point, he's going to want to try to get some Zambrax out. Those Zambrax will absolutely annihilate the Cossacks, because the Cossacks not being as fast and being a little bit, squishy, especially with the Boyar nerf that came in a couple patches ago. So, the scary thing, too, for India is I think Russia is one of the few civs that can actually stick with them in Age 2 and just scale forever. I mean, we might not see an Age 3 in this game because both of these civs perfectly content to sit in Age 2 and boom as long as they can.
Castle now going down to try to kind of negate those rather than send the Sepoy back to go chase after Cossack or even send after the his own cavalry to go after them. Instead going for that castle, so it's going to kind of take a lot of the wind out of the sails there. 26 now, Vills versus 26, so still MoZes hanging in there, doing well. Funny enough, we always talk about Russia underscoring and has now taken a pretty decent lead over India here.
Well, I think he's kept his mass alive. Again, MoZeS kind of had to gamble with the blockhouse, which again, it did slow him down, but Russia's ability to remass, as we can see, is pretty potent, and now he's getting down to stable, so we might start to see a Musk Husk kind of combination. And again, Russia doesn't really have to win battles all the time; it just has to not lose the game. And as long as it can, beat India to a standstill, it should be fine. So I guess if I'm India, you're either looking to go up to age 3, maybe get some Mahouts out. Again, Russia kind of struggles into very tanky cavalry. Here come the flails.
Flail elephants, but at the same time, you have an H3 coming in with the Exile Prince, so that's a fast H3. So that's a huge resource sink. Now, Candyman has done a really good job of maintaining a really solid eco here. He's got a good forward base. He doesn't have a huge mass behind this. This isn't a lot of units. I know Russia doesn't have as strong units, and MoZeS should know this, that there's an issue here. He's just going to go straight for it. He's just going to go ahead.
Look how much abuse those flail elephants. I mean, they're basically like meat shields, But at the same time, and again, even into straylets, they will do work. So kind of good on there for MoZeS for using an underutilized unit. He rips down the forward house, and again, he's going to force Candyman back, but I do agree where he's not actually killing the opponent's army. And that might start to...
Some Bill's now going down, though, but it looks like a lot of that mass is... Well, the Explorer doing good work. Sepoy are now going to step forward and get their shots in. These Strelets are just going to walk it back. 2 Falconets now coming in. And those Flail Elephants, that sound is horrific. That stable is just going to get wrenched down. And that's a lot of resources lost. 2 Falconets and now 5 Cossack, and then that batch is lost there. So now all he has is 2 Falc. He's going to have to put a blockhouse down back here and very little mass. Oh, Falconet pop. This is kind of scary. Does he see it? Okay, now MoZeS definitely needs to be able to see this. Oh, no, he's just going to... I don't think he cares.
Well, here comes the Minutemen pop, though. And those Minutemen will do pretty good, I assume. I don't see any Minutemen.
Flail getting on top of the Falconet. Oh.
There they go. Yep, and they're going to just rip those 2 flails down.
What are you doing, MoZeS? 1 Falconet going down and just a loss of the mass there.
Yep, I think his strategy worked really well the first 2 times, especially with the flail pop, right, being so tanky. But now that you're under the TC, you're taking extra damage from the TC. It's a siege unit, and then on top of it, the Minutemen do extra damage against siege units. So he does take 1 Falc down, but, at the cost of his entire mass. And yeah, now Candyman's like, dude, I'm booming. Let me be.
This is tough. I mean, now, India does have a lot of options available to it in Age 2, unlike... Russia, which basically has 2-3 units that it's going to be relying upon. Falconet now going to slowly push. Aggro getting some shots in onto that infantry mass. It's going to take a while for that Falconet to take down this aggro, so MoZeS definitely has some time, but 1 blockhouse, he's going to be able to mass a little bit more here. Ooh, tough. But he is getting Halbs. Now, Halbs are going to add a lot of siege, but it's kind of interesting because MoZeS has neglected to make any sort of cav here. So it's kind of like, well,
his cav is the Flail
Elephants. It seems like he's dedicated to that now.
I love it. You love to see it. I'm sorry, but that is not something you see every day. That's pretty impressive for MoZeS to be like, yeah, I'm under pressure, and the game may not be going exactly, but I'm committed.
I mean, if he can just kind of force the fight here, he doesn't have a lot of Halb. Like, those Halbs are going to go ahead and go down. If he can focus them, those Flailers are just going to keep running across. And then if he can get... He's on top of that Falconet now with one of those Flail. Does he get the swing in? Ooh, does the aggro get it? Oh, this is tough. Oh, and another...
Oh, and he just gets it. Wow, good job. And just like that, again, MoZeS is kind of stabilizing. He's doing a great job, I think, to hold the line. I just think getting the right ratio of Flail Elephants to Gurkha and everything else is just very tricky. So
yeah, he hasn't been able to mass enough, really. More Halbs coming out on Candyman's part. Oh,
that's not something you see every day. What a strange game. You've got Russian Halbs
and
massed Flail Elephants, and I keep calling them Flail, but again, Flail Elephants is kind of
Flail Elephants, yeah.
Because they're hard to, they're good. They're not bad units, but they're hard to get a lot of value out in mass. And I think MoZeS, he's getting max value out of them, but you're kind of seeing one of the undersides of the unit, which is they don't do that much damage to units, even though they're great tanks. So
now an Age 4 coming in on Candyman's part. Okay,
wow.
So that's a pretty quick transition there, and man, he's 32 to 31. I mean, they've been comparable in terms of, in terms of villager mass. But I guess the issue here is that it just shows that they have, India just has so many options. and they can just keep it going. Whereas Russia, the cost effectiveness of units is really demonstrated. Now, I don't know. What are you thinking? Like, now he's not going to have as many resources. Now he can make more Strelid, I guess. He can kind of mass a few more infantry, but they're weaker infantry. He does have the Halbs, though.
I don't know. This is pretty ballsy to age 4 in the face of this pressure, I must say. Especially because you don't know if India's doing a tech switch or anything. So we'll see what comes up.
Ooh, Gurkha are just going to get free shots in. Blockhouse is there to do some damage. Is he going to be training some Cossack? Yes, he is. He does get a batch of 5 Cossack on the way and then 10 Strelitz. So I don't... Now, is he going to get popped by this? He's not going to get popped by this.
He's got plenty of housing pop, but still, I mean, every little bit counts, right? Especially if... Was he aged up for the Falconets, probably? If it's the engineer,
Let's take a look. Yeah, engineer.
Yep. Ooh, but then those Cossacks are coming out, and they will do a lot of work.
Oh, man, I'm just so glued to this fight right now. I don't know. MoZeS is fighting under TC fire. He's going to probably get cleaned up here. He does have the flail. But...
is he going to take down that blockhouse again? I mean, it's almost dead.
And another blockhouse goes down on the part of Candyman, and then he still does have units up, and I just... And that H4 is just slowly making its way, and then even more 19 Strelid are not going to pop. And even more Flail Elephants. I mean, there's a strategy here. There's a logic here, but it's... In the face of Russia just being able to just constantly bounce back its military composition, and your units are just that much more expensive. The Flail Elephants are so expensive to just constantly be producing. You're in trouble. It's H4 into H2. Yeah, I mean, this is
deadly. You know, MoZeS is also, he's got a lot of export that probably could have been used. Yeah, this is a tough spot for certain. I think if you're MoZeS, you gotta either end this game in the next about probably 2 minutes, if even that, or you're gonna have to push and get to age 3 somehow, because age 2 units are just not gonna cut it against Russia. Although again, no upgrades for Russia. Is Candyman starting to upgrade his stuff now?
Let's take a look. Nope. Factory now coming in, and for MoZeS, I mean, it just looks like Ottoman Expeditionary Company with militia, flail. I mean, we got a huge pop of stuff coming in, but it looks like huge raid coming in here on the part of Candyman. He was definitely looking for that the whole time. I know he was scouting around for that. That's massive, wow, and look at, and now even more Cossack now.
Cossacks are on the room, you know, the New Delhi.
Yeah, and the aggro just went down. We missed it. Yeah. Yeah, that's.
He's just all over. Yeah, I think MoZeS just completely, you know, squeezed like a vite. And this is what Russia loves to do, of course, right? You know, Russia's key strategy is to contain, you know, put the opponent off tempo, and then either, you know, go up to a certain age where their units are just so cost effective that they can end it, or end it themselves by starving their opponent. It looks like for Candyman, everything's gone to plan. If you're MoZeS at this point, you're just hoping that he does a massive throw, basically.
Yeah, I think MoZeS would have been better off picking. I mean, I don't know exactly what the picks were. He's a professional. He's a professional at destroying blockhouses at this point. I don't really
Charge
understand.
Of the elephants. I love it. One more. He's like one last huzzah.
Yeah, and then the GG coming in. Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Okay. So, initial thoughts are. That was weird.
It was different. I mean,
it was different.
First off, like, I think it takes a lot of balls to come into a tournament, right? And this would be the quarterfinals, right? Or round of 16. And basically, you know, it's something that I know that he's been kind of messing around with. So to take it and be like, hey, you know what? Russia's kind of weak to heavy cav. I don't have, you know, tanky heavy cav, but I do have these elephants. And getting as much value as he possibly could. That being said, bit of an overinvestment. I think he got trapped in age 2. You know, ideally after one of those fights, you know, when Russia went to age 3, he probably could have held back, walled off himself, bought himself some time, got to age 3, shipped probably siege elephants first, right? Because siege elephants will beat the 2 Falc push pretty well. And then from there, just, you know, done the classic India scaling. You know, get some Mahoots out, some Sepoy or Gurkha, Zambra. You know, again, India, very flexible civ. The sky's the limit. Between consulate and your basic roster. So very hard in that situation. And for Candyman, he was under pressure that whole game. I mean, he lost, 4 blockhouses? 5 blockhouses? and just really on point, showing why he's such a strong player. Again, took good engagements, constant looking for raids, exploring the map, just trying to engage his opponent on all fronts, and just do that classic Russia, vice grip, where you just slowly squeeze your opponent dry.
Yeah, I think probably MoZeS was intending to use the flail elephants a lot earlier in the game. Is if I was going to hazard the guess, and I think that if he was able to get out the 4 to 6 flail elephants at a certain timing push, and he was successful in taking out the blockhouse, and then he could have taken out the stable and really pushed them back in, and then fallen back and then preserved the mass, right, and then done the transition, that probably would have been best in this case, rather than doubling down. But I understand why the second push happened, and it was close.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that there's like potential H2 strategy here, especially once you get things going, that those flail elephants can definitely be deadly. And kudos to MoZeS for trying something, for, really putting it out there and saying, hey, we can have a dedicated H2. I want to try to make this work, especially against Russia, because you want to make sure that they're not allowed to mass, which the philosophy is correct. It just didn't pan out. And good job on Candyman to not express any sort of frustration and just continuing to lean on the strengths of the Civ and demonstrate them, in a very clear-cut manner. The ability to remass and the cost-effective trading of Russia. You can see here, really good on MoZeS, honestly. He kept toe-to-toe in terms of the Vil count and even, military. Like, Russia's going to do more than you, but he did well in terms of being relatively comparable. But then this is what you don't want to see, is when Russia's killing more units than you are, right? And then that's when that's spelling the end of it.
Well, it's the classic Russia, strength, really, is they don't have to win a single battle. They just have to not to lose the game. And both players showing a lot of comfort with their Civ and a lot of deep knowledge. But at the end of the game, tiny things, like you said, tiny engagements here and there with the Agra in the beginning and the blockhouses, and perhaps a little bit overproducing of the siege elephants is ultimately, I think, what cost MoZeS this game. And for Candyman playing a very, clean, clinical game, the series is able to go on. So again, hats off to both these players. We got to see something you don't usually see, right? And you got to see kind of the strengths and the weaknesses of the flail, or again, as I kept calling it, the fail elephant, with its beautiful sounds in the game. So
yeah, absolutely.
That was fun. I had a blast watching it.
Yeah, it was a fun one. So with that being said, thank you to both of these players for allowing us to cast over your game. You guys are fantastic. Really appreciate it. Thank you for just a wonderful game and something that's different, you wouldn't totally expect, and we're really appreciative of it. And we're appreciative of all of you for tuning into the Age of Bison YouTube channel, watching our casted games. We just passed our 500th subscriber milestone, so to each of you who have subscribed, we really appreciate it. And as we're saying, we're going to be moving onward to 1,000. So if you are watching our videos and you're enjoying our content and you are not subscribed, hey, maybe this is your opportunity. Be a part of the 500 and help us on to 1,000. It means a lot to us, guys, all the support that we've been getting, all the positive comments, as well as every single subscribe that we've gotten. We do it for you. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one.